Life has been about creativity and communication, for better or for worse. And I've been fortunate enough to explore creativity in a lot of different ways. And I really think that all human beings have a creative spark. And mine has just been rather intense. Photography was not on my radar screen. It just kind of popped up for me, and I had a natural affinity for it, and I loved it. I loved the adventure of it and the contact with people.
I had a girlfriend and mother used to say I looked like the world's largest leopard.
I named the book Shooting from the Hip because that really is symbolic for my whole life. Because I've never had a class in anything. I've just started doing things. All these guys with great faces come together and tell the same lies over and over again. Am I right about that?
They keep working.
I think a good photographer is hyper aware and sensitive to their environment and to people. Great face, I think. I was very alert, and you had to be, because, the great photograph, it's only there in a split slice second, and you got to be ready for it. There's a photograph of an old man with a pipe and a beat-up hat, but he's surrounded by his friends. But at one point, they heckled him because he was being photographed by a, quote, hippie. And he glanced up at him with a real hard look, and that's when I made the photograph. And that's the defining moment of the whole psychology and the imagery, everything that was going on at that point. Oklahoma is basically a rural state, and it's populated with some real characters. And of course, a lot of them are very crusty and salty, and in their looks and their language. And I just was always drawn to these characters because they all had beautiful faces, interesting stories. And of course, a lot of them had lived through the Dust Bowl and the Depression, and these people just didn't take any guff from you. Most of them are willing to be photographed and swap a story, but it's part of the beautiful part of Oklahoma, the rich, varied history, and a lot of these people helped make the history of Oklahoma. Vicey Walker is kind of dear to my heart. I heard about this old Chickasaw woman, and I found her, and I was just enthralled with her whole being and her face. She was really kind of luminous. A lot of times these old people who live out in the rural areas can be taciturn, but she was very open, and she loved being photographed, and the light was fantastic, and it really showed all of her lines and wrinkles, but she would not smile, and actually it made a better photograph because she didn't smile. So often, when I would tell stories about having made a particular photograph and the event and my emotions and everything, people would say, well, you should write an essay about this. And so it occurred to me when I was doing the book that the book could have more depth for me and people looking at the book if I went into detail about the event and my emotions and what was going on in my own mind as I was photographing this. Because the photographer, whether he wants to be or not, actually becomes a part of the event one way or the other. And so it was a natural combination, a natural joining of the image with the writing and the words. Got a call on a particular Saturday in November in Ada, and I went out and I discovered that 2 young girls had fallen through thin ice and drowned. And when I got there, I realized that I knew the family. It was a very surreal experience. It was almost like I was out of my body photographing that because of the tragedy. And the parents, they were in extreme denial. And so it was very difficult to photograph that event with knowing those people. But I was a professional. It was my job to document that. I spent my time trying to comfort these poor people and do my job. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever done as a person and as a photographer. I think that I am a storyteller. I think that part of who I am is a communicator. I think that with words and pictures and with with my art, I try to communicate with people and touch people in some visceral, emotional way. In addition, there's the aesthetic, there's the image. But the image is very important because that connects us to life. That connects us to our psyche and to our heart. And so I've always operated that way in whatever I'm doing. I worked with Feed the Children for years and spent a good deal of time in Africa and Central America, photographing the civil wars in Central America, the famines in Africa, did extensive work with the Maasai. That took me to a different level with my photography, and of course I was exposed to some world events. Here's one I made of a Maasai shaman in Kenya years ago, and I sat by him for an hour, and finally I just got the idea that I could make a shot of him. I made one, he got up and left, that was it. I left photojournalism in 1987, and then to make a living, I invented a line of jewelry, and then eventually I did Route 66 and 50 pin, and then I eventually sold that business so I could do what I really wanted to do, and that was make sculpture and paintings. And so I came back to art rather late in life. Well, welcome to my jungle. I grow a lot of cactus. I love cactus. Hyacinth bean. Right now I'm experimenting with painting by subtraction, and I lay down layers of paint on an aluminum panel, and then I take the paint back off. And I want to see the layers and the striations, and I take it back down to various layers, including back down to the bare aluminum. And of course the aluminum has a different look, it's brilliant, and so it gives us this backdrop and this winking lights, if you will, in this background, this ground of color. And so I'm experimenting with that just to see what it looks like and how it works, and if it could be a body of work. Aha! Yeah. That's how you make art. I found what I did with this, I put the initial layers on too thick, so it's taking too long and too much of a burden on my grinder to get down to the aluminum. So, and this is the first time I've done this, so I'm still experimenting. But I think I'm going to put thinner layers, and I can get back down to the metal quicker, and therefore I can create more patterns more quickly and see what I'm doing with this. So that's my next step with this. My main body of work with sculpture was with steel, and I like to work in large pieces of granite stone. They're found objects, essentially is what they are, from the riverbed. They're real round and polished. And then I found big chunks of glass and built those into the steel too. And it's just that contrast, steel and stone, glass and stone, and that was my main body of work. You got to take chances. I mean, to make real art, to make art that's exciting and cutting edge, you've got to take those risks. And but there's a lot of rewards, when it does work. And now I'm working with color field, scanning, using the computer technology to make some art. What I enjoy doing is taking different layers, transparencies of imagery that I have created, painted, and then with some actual photographs that are also made into transparencies. And then I layer those and then I scan them, and that gives me a very complex, wonderful image. It's rich and layered. Actually, I've always combined different imagery. Even when I was a working photojournalist, I would often sandwich imagery together and of course try to harangue editors into using something a little more artistic, which Sometimes I was successful, but usually not. I always brought a creative, artistic bent to my photography. I guess at the basic level, I'm a photographer, but overall, I would say that I'm a creative person, and I will use any means or materials to express that creativity. I mean, the making of art is about self-revelation. The world is revealed to you through your work, through your creativity, and it comes up through your psyche, and you just need to get out of the way. Get out of the way and let it flow, and try to catch that slight second in time and space, that defining second, and the emotional value there for you and for other people.